So how did you think the entire session or the budget process went?
Overall, I think good. I mean, we're through it. I mean, I'm still trying to assess. I mean, and decompress because it is intense, and especially as you get to the end, it's very intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for us,
overall, I think good. We'll let it shake out a little bit. I mean, it's like any session. It comes with its ups and its downs, and it's an amalgamation of all the varied advocates, and it's democracy basically. And so that leaves many to think you did a great job on any given issue, and many to believe you didn't do a great job on any issue. And maybe being in the middle is what it's all about. So,
what were the points you were most proud of? And then my follow-up to that one will be, what do you wish happened a little different?
well, these always get me. Most proud of? Most proud of?
Yeah, what were the highlights and what were the lowlights?
Proud. That's a hard word for me to use, pride. It's
Yeah.
something that I don't use a lot. I'm glad we were able to get a budget through, and I think it's a sound budget. I think it sets us up for better financial security in the future. But I'm not going to use proud because implicit in that we had to cut and try to force some better utilization of like about $150 million of cuts we had to do. So I hate to use the word proud to talk about that. But it's necessary. It's what we have to do. We stopped what I thought was an ill-conceived plan to do the sales tax proposal, and it came out of a lot of angst because I, as an old finance chairman, I know that the relevancy of our sales tax, that we moved from a goods-based economy to a service economy, and the rise of internet sales, whatever, that it's becoming less relevant. So there needs to be a discussion, and I praise the governor for starting that discussion. I had problems with the way he did it in terms of just dropping the taxes. It was about $168 million in tax increases. And you could have been able to accept that and make the fight for it if you showed that in the out years it would have solved our budget deficit problems, but it showed that the out year deficits within 4 years would have been $500 million. So clearly you had a tax proposal that was a tax increase that had taxed a lot of issues that weren't taxed in the past and did nothing for the long-term fiscal integrity of the state, so why do it? And so I wouldn't say that's proud that I did that, but I was glad that I was in a position able to rise to the level and say, look, this is not the way we're going to do it, and we're going to come up with a different way of fashioning this. And I think tough votes in terms of the longevity pay. I wouldn't say, I think that had to end. So again, proud that they were able to stand up and say that we need to look at long-term fiscal integrity. So something like that, which even though you know it's going to impact people's pay, state employees' pay, but they still rose to the occasion and did it, notwithstanding a lot of pressure not to do it. So in terms of pride, I'd like to say I'm proud of the work that all of my reps did, and especially to my finance committee members and my finance committee chairman in particular, because it was his first budget. He's new at it, but he really has risen to the occasion, and so I will use proud in terms of deciding and discussing the work of all these men and women that did a lot of good work.
Well, cool. You touched upon something I was going to ask you about, cuts to the poor folk in Rhode Island. How did you feel about that?
It's hard because you know that, in terms of the whole safety net, it wouldn't just be poor folk, but it's the elderly, it's the disabled. And I know, because I visit places like the Groden Center, visit places that are providing those services, there's a need out there. And trying to, but I think, and again, I can use the word proud, that I think that whenever the committee went through those types of cuts, they vetted them, and they realized that we know we have to keep a safety net. We know that Rhode Islanders depend on this helping hand, and we know that people depend on whether they're older or disabled or suffering from an infirmity, that there should be a safety net. And I think we preserved it. And I think that even though that we had to make cuts, I think if it forces reorganization and rethinking of the delivery of those services, I think ultimately it will lead us to a better place, because we do have less money. We have to know that you go to the taxpayer last, not first. You have to provide these services, but you have to make sure that every service you provide is providing that service to the highest degree with the least amount of expense. And that may be a hard position to reconcile, but that's what the times call for. Doing more with less. And so I think the providers that have historically served these communities in Rhode Island, we have some very good providers out there to them, and a lot of them are hurting from the cuts. But I would like to say that we've not abandoned what the services you provide. We're just asking for you, like we're asking for all state employees, all municipal employees, to do as good a job or better a job with less. And I think that's what's reflective in this budget as well.